So anyways, we'll just carry on here. While the court may have reacted to the same conclusion in the case of a white defendant, it used... Wait a minute, did we skip that one? False statement trial. Yeah, whether the court might have reached the same conclusion in the case of a white defendant, it used the case to emphasize that people of color have different experiences with law enforcement, as borne out by data showing that police have long disproportionately arrested and used force against black people and other minority groups. Because of these experiences, they might have different perspectives regarding whether they are free to leave an encounter with officers. This makes minority status one factor in determining whether a person has been, quote-unquote, seized by law enforcement, the court said.
I want to take a second because I want to point out that they are now, and I can't speak for this particular outfit, right? There's a news outfit. But the narrative throughout the entirety of George Floyd, right, is that police are murdering black people.
Yes.
Police are murdering black people indiscriminately and just all of the time. It's happening all the time. But now they're drawing this really fine distinction that has been the argument of conservatives throughout the entirety of George Floyd, is that certainly there is evidence that they have been disproportionately interacted with police officers. There's been a lot of aggression, things like that. But you can't say, and that's why they didn't say in this article, that black people are killed more often than white people, because you can't say that. Statistically, there isn't evidence for him to believe that the police officer are going to kill him. There isn't statistical evidence of that, and that's why they can't say that in this article.
Yes.
Even though throughout the entirety of George Floyd, that's been the whole argument, right? Is that the cops are killing black people. They're killing black people all over the place. I just want to make sure that that's evident, that the language is so important in this type of stuff. The way they're choosing for this to be written.
Yep. And so let's continue. Quote, today we formally recognize that what has been true in interaction with law enforcement, race and ethnicity matter, Justice Mary Yu wrote. Therefore, courts must consider the race and ethnicity of the alleged seized person as part of the totality of the circumstances when deciding whether there was a seizure.
Yes.
So that's the other important part about this. This is all after you've already been henned up and are in court. That's why the court has to determine whether or not your race or ethnicity had anything to do with your responses and interactions with the police.
After the fact.
After the fact, yes.
Someone needs to judge whether or not you or the police officer your actions were influenced by your feelings or their feelings about these historical interactions that the two communities have with each other. So even though... That's crazy. So the judge has to then decide what was in your brain when this happened. If you thought that you were afraid that you were going to die, or if the police officer thought, well, maybe I'll fucking kill this guy today because he's black. Like,
yeah. And
what are we doing here?
And because the problem here is that if you are a member of a historically oppressed minority, if you will, that has, as they put, shown out through the data to have more, interactions with police in a negative fashion, then I still don't understand, because you're already being charged, you're already in court, but we're going to be more lenient on you because of essentially historical oppression with the police. But if you're not a member of one of those marginalized categories, you don't get that benefit of the doubt.
And there's no way that you were scared.
If you are a white person, you cannot be afraid of, like, when the cops come to you, because statistically they're not going to kill you.
Right.
No. At all. No. It has nothing to do with that. I mean, I'm sure that some people, hell, you sit there over the last few years and you're told by all the media institutions out there that if you're a black person, you can't go outside because the police are trying to hunt you down. Some people, after a number of years of being told that every single day, day in and day out, seeing it on social media, are going to believe that shit themselves.
Right.
And that's not okay. The truth of the matter is the state, the agent of the state, the law enforcement officer, is trying to hem you up, period. It doesn't matter what color you are.
Right.
If they are pulling you over, if they're going to initiate some form of a interaction, they are acting as a law enforcer of the state. And you are the subject of their, I don't know what you're going to call it. I don't want to say it's like always a negative interaction, but just as it is, you are in a negative position because the state's coming after you, period. It doesn't matter what color you are. Either way, like if I get pulled over, I would hope that I am just as nervous and on edge as anyone else that gets pulled over by a cop. Because You don't know what kind of day this cop's had. You don't know if he's going to give you a warning. You may not even know why you got pulled over.
Yeah.
You know, and you don't have no idea how this is going to go. You're just going to try to do the best you can, act as calm as you can, and just try to get in and get out, and hopefully you don't walk away with like a $350 ticket or some shit. I don't know. It's just not a good. I feel like by focusing in so much on the aspect of race and ethnicity, you're removing the fact that most people are intimidated by the authority of the state.
Yeah.
And that's the real problem here. But then you get into the court at this point, because this has already been ruled. This was ruled Thursday. The opinion's out. It's done. So if you're in that position and you're not a member of a historically marginalized group of people, you don't get the benefit of the doubt for being fucking terrified because you're in an interaction with a police officer.
Right. Even if you've taken the last 2 years to look at a lot of the statistics, and look at the interactions, and see that actually, again, statistically, you have a higher likelihood of being killed by a police officer than all this narrative that you've heard of the last 2 years.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter because you don't have the historical context that would line up with that. No. So you don't really have a reason to be. I can personally attest that I am much more nervous to interact with police officers since I started carrying a firearm because you don't know how, like you said, you don't know how they're going to react.
No.
People are jumpy about that type of shit.
Yep.
I was talking to Trenton about it. Philando Castile
Yeah.
had a concealed pistol license and everything in his car. He was actively communicating with a police officer and still got shot in front of his wife and his kid.
Yep.
They don't care. They don't care about you. They don't care what color you are. They don't care if you have a license. They don't care if you're trained. They don't care if you're anything. They don't care if they have you, like the guy in the hotel, crawling on your hands and knees and you're trying to pick up your pants. They will shoot you in the fucking head because they are scared and they have the power and they can do what they want and they won't get charged in the end.
Yeah. 9 times out of 10. It's not a good situation. The other aspect of this I thought was really interesting, this whole case, is the guy, after he... Well, the main argument behind this is whether or not this individual knew he could walk away from that scenario without having to go through the standard ordeal with this police officer. Yes. He literally could have been like, "No, man, I'm there's no reason he should have." He's terrified, I guess, apparently, so he gives him a fake name and birthday and stuff. But that's not inherently illegal to do that unless you are actively under arrest. But if you're just having a conversation with a cop about something, there's nothing says you have to continue to be there unless he is doing like if it's a traffic stop, that's a whole nother situation, something like that, because you're already being, what's the right word? You're already involved with a law enforcement. I don't even know what you would call that. Like, you're already in a situation now. Like, if you're getting pulled over, you're being not arrested, but you're being controlled by the state.
Suspected already of doing something wrong.
Yes. And so they need to do the whole thing. And so you're it's not even like being detained, but it's similar along those lines. You don't really have the freedom to just go away. Like, if a cop pulls you over, you got to pull over.
And that's why you can't just flee.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
but I think, speaking to your point, right? And we could turn it to school or to anything that we run, right? When we are told,
I still don't like interacting with cops.
When we are told about police officers, we're told just do what they say.
Yeah.
Just listen and just do what they say, right? Our knowledge and the things we're taught about police officers is their power. It's not your power. It's not your power, your right, your ability in this situation to control yourself and control this interaction all within your own rights without putting yourself in a compromised position. Those are not the things that we're told.
Yeah.
We as a society, as individuals, need to be empowered with the knowledge of the rights that we have to control that situation in every possible manner.
Yep. That was going to be my next point is, I don't know if I'm pretty sure there's not a generalized knowledge of when it is okay to walk away from a cop.
No.
Everybody just assumes that if a cop's talking to you, you're right there.
Say,
you're
yes,
involved.
officer.
I got to do it.
Yep. You just say, yes, officer. Yes, sir. That's even... Like, you don't have to agree to a search of your car. If they ask you, can I search your vehicle? No, you cannot search my vehicle.
Not without a warrant, baby.
You saying no is not reason enough for them to have probable cause to search your vehicle.
Yeah.
Right? Just the simple denial of the search is not reason enough for them to be suspicious.
Yeah.
People don't know that. So they just say yes and get themselves into situations all the fucking time when they could just say, no, I'm on my way. I got shit I want to do. I actually don't have to have a reason for you to not do it. I just don't want you in my fucking shit.
Yeah.
Because you don't have the right to just search my vehicle. You don't have the right to just search my things. It's the same deal as if you have a lockbox in your car. They can't force you to open the lockbox in your car.
Yep.
It's a locked thing that's its own entity. You got to get a warrant for that locked box in your car.
Yep.
People don't know that shit. They don't know these things.
And with the laws being so complicated, I mean, there's a I'd have to look it up real quick. There's an essay from an anarchist. I've been going through the Anarchist Handbook recently. Max Stirner, and he was talking about kind of, it's a different set of subjects, but essentially a citizen's relationship with the state. You're born into state control, so you are then subject to all the laws thereof. And he was making an argument that any given citizen should be able to understand what it is that they are agreeing to and being a part of the system. And so if you got, he makes a reference to English common law, and it's like 50 editions back then, and it's like, they're all 1,500 pages or whatever. It's like, how is any normal citizen supposed to be able to understand and comprehend what they can and cannot do? And the U.S. legal code is far more complex than that at this point. How is anybody truly supposed to know what they can and can't do until they actually break a law in that giant, like, if you were to print out all legal, just in the federal code, you couldn't, and all on like index cards, you probably could overfill this entire house.
Right.
And that's not, how is any citizen supposed to know what they can and can't do at this point? And this guy, he freaked out. He drove off, ended up crashing into somebody's yard, which then he had already, he ran from authorities.
Right. Then
which,
it's suspicious.
Yeah, because then it's a problem.
Yeah.
And so after he ran, he crashed. Then the cops then had, reasonable suspicion or whatever it is to be able to search his vehicle. And then they found a firearm that he was not technically allowed to have for one reason or another. And so now he's getting hemmed up. They did drop the initial charge of the falsifying statement in the beginning. But at that point, they're like, well, yeah, dude, we have you on a gun charge now, so we don't care if you lied to the cop in the beginning of it. So it's not a good situation. Not a good situation. Just another example of a problematic relationship between the citizenry and the state. Once again, confusion in who has the authority and what your rights are as a citizen. Not awesome.